Headliner Nation, what's going on? Kyle with the Fantasy Headliners coming back to you with some tight end rankings for week one. And how glorious was it to finally have football on our television? Man, it felt good to just sit down and watch a game again. It's been a very long offseason, but we have finally made it into the thick of things of week one, and we got ourselves some football. And of course, we have a full slate on Sunday we still need to worry about. So we got to talk about my tight end rankings and where I have certain guys placed. Don't forget, if you've got questions for us, leave them down in the comments. We'll get to as many as possible, but if we can't, you can head down to the description below. There's a link for Patreon, $10 a month. Guarantees you answers to any questions you have, plus all of our exclusive content as well. And you want to play some DFS, you can just bump up to $20 a month and you get all of Chris Kennedy's optimizer picks and all of his tools. So make sure you keep all that in mind. Another thing to just remind you of, okay, the rankings videos and the start sit videos, use these things together, okay? Don't just pop in, look at the names I have on the sheet and then pop out, right? Because I try to talk through them, explain them to you, and go through all of that. If it doesn't make sense to you, it's probably because you didn't listen, okay? So make sure you listen to the start sit videos and the rankings so you get all the depth of knowledge that I've got for you, and we can consume this together and we can move forward to dominate week one. So with that being said, we got to get going. Let's talk about my top 20 tight ends for week one. All right, Headliner Nation, we're going to start at the bottom and we'll work our way up to the top. First off, Darren Fells down at number 20. Yep, missed out on that one. Jordan Akins was the guy on Thursday Night Football that got a lot more work than what Fells did. Don't be surprised if that continues to happen. They went back and forth a little bit last year, but Fells is the one that had the best stretch of games. So I thought last night maybe he would be against the against the Kansas City Chiefs, a team that last year gave up a lot of points to tight ends. So we'll see what happens going forward. It will be something that we'll keep monitoring. But moving forward, Dallas Goedert at number 19. Dallas Goedert, I mean, here's the thing. We're kind of waiting on what's going on with Jalen Reagor right now, right? It sounds like he could play this week, but don't be surprised if we get to Sunday morning and all of a sudden they're like, no, it's going to be a no-go. So we keep monitoring that. If Jalen Reagor is out there on the field, which fingers crossed he will be, Dallas Goedert takes a little bit of a hit, okay? If Jalen Reagor doesn't end up playing, I might bump Goedert up above Chris Herndon. I might leave him right here, but that's going to be kind of a determining factor on what happens with Goedert this week, even if they do play more 12 personnel. Chris Herndon at number 18. This is a guy that's got a little bit of a connection with Sam Darnold. He had a good rookie season, and then last year dealt with the injury, missed almost the entire year. So a lot of people that were calling for the breakout last year think it could end up happening this year. We'll see what happens in week one. It's a good time for him to get rolling. Well, what about Hayden Hurst? We've talked a lot about Hayden Hurst, correct? Well, here's the thing about Hayden Hurst. The one thing that I'm keeping an eye on this week is exactly how his routes go, all right? I broke this down in a video over the offseason, and what I talked about with Hayden Hurst was that last year, the most success that Austin Hooper had was in the middle of the yard, or was in the middle of the field 0 to 10 yards down the field. Okay, that is where Austin Hooper lived. And the reason he lived there was because they couldn't run the ball last year. They could not do it. So Austin Hooper was kind of the bridge to that. If we can't run it on these short yardage situations, let's just throw it. And that's why they went to Austin Hooper so much. And that's why he was so successful, because those play calls were set up for him to be successful. With Todd Gurley being in town now, the offensive line should be a little bit better than it was last year. Even if they're still not great, Todd Gurley, on a per touch basis last year still looked good. If he can get rolling, they might not have to put Hayden Hurst in those same situations. But here's the thing about Hayden Hurst. If you drafted him, more than likely you drafted him as your tight end one. If you don't have anybody else, just roll with him this week, okay? Just because I have him as a set, ladies and gentlemen, doesn't mean you have to listen to me, okay? I'm here to give you my knowledge and my feedback of the situation. But if your gut tells you that Hayden Hurst is going to be going off this weekend, just go with Hayden Hurst, right? Because the best thing you can ever do is go with your gut. Because when you look back on the weekend and you say, man, I really messed that one up, okay? The only person that you can look at is yourself. You don't have to sit there and say, if I wouldn't have listened to Kyle, or I wouldn't. So that's why I'm saying, if you've got Hayden Hurst and you feel like he's going to go off and he's your only tight end, go ahead and roll with him, okay? Don't risk it by going with somebody else. Just roll with Hayden Hurst and see what happens. Me, I'm being cautiously optimistic. I don't necessarily think he's going to be used in the same role Austin Hooper was last year. We'll wait and see how it goes. Obviously, if he has a big week, he's going to jump up in my rankings next week. Okay, I'll bite the bullet on that one if I end up being wrong. There's no issues there. Eric Ebron at number 16, definitely a guy that can find the end zone this week. That's why I got him a little bit lower, because definitely could see a touchdown game for him, but does he get the volume to go with it? That's going to be one of the questions there with Eric Ebron. TJ Hawkinson, as I started recording this video, find out that Kenny Golladay has been moved to doubtful for Sunday. Okay, so now we're finding out a little bit more about Kenny Golladay. He's doubtful. With TJ Hawkinson, right now, this is kind of going to be where he stays for me. But more than likely, by the time we kick off on Sunday, I'm going to end up moving him up right around that 13 area, okay? Probably right before Jack Doyle. Could end up bouncing just a little bit higher than that. But like I said, this happened while I was recording, and I haven't had a chance to go look at exactly everything yet. And I want to make sure that this doubtful situation is true. Okay, if he is actually doubtful, we're going to be moving TJ Hawkinson up a little bit. Kind of like TJ Hawkinson, I might be moving him up because one of his star receivers is out, possibly. Noah Fant. Sounds like he's going to be missing Courtland Sutton on Monday Night Football. If that happens, Noah Fant's going to get a pretty big boost for me. This is another guy that could end up propelling up into my top 12 tight ends for this week. So him and Hawkinson definitely have a lot of upside, and that's why he could end up going over Doyle, Gronkowski, probably Ingram. We'll see how everything else goes with the other tight ends who we're going to be talking about in a minute. So Noah Fant is another guy that could be moving up quite a bit, especially finding out that Courtland Sutton might not be playing this week. Jack and Doyle, right? He's at number 13 for me this week. Volume should be good, right? Michael Pittman Jr. has been hurt and hasn't really been doing anything in camp. We've got, obviously, T.Y. Hilton, who's ready and raring to go. Paris Campbell has been hurt in camp. So let's wait and see what happens. As far as pass catching goes, he doesn't really have a pass catching back there that's going to take a ton of volume. Yeah, Nyheim Hines could be used a little bit. Yeah, Jonathan Taylor and Marlon Mack could be used a little bit, but there's not like a clear cut running back that we're like, this guy is going to get peppered with targets. We know this guy is going to get X amount of targets every week. Jack Doyle right now could very well be the number 2 wide receiver or number 2 receiver in terms of targets on the team in week 1. Okay, as the tight end, this is a guy who a few years ago had over 100 targets, so we know he can handle the volume. If he had more touchdown upside for me, I might move him up a little bit, but I think when they get into the red zone, you're going to see a ton of running backs and a lot of just pounding the ball in there. So that's why I've got him a little bit lower, because the touchdown upside might not be there. And number 12 with Rob Gronkowski, he's the one guy I might be bouncing back a little bit. Might see him slowly worked into the game plan. Might see O.J. Howard out there for extended periods of time. Might see some 2 tight end sets. But Rob Gronkowski, in my opinion, is going to find the end zone this week. Even if he only goes, 2 or 3 catches for 40 yards or even a little bit less than that and 1 touchdown, that could end up being enough to get you into top 12 tight end status for the week. So Rob Gronkowski, another guy I'm keeping an eye on. But there's a lot of guessing game right now. We don't have anything in the preseason to work off, so I can't just tell you, yeah, this is what they did in the preseason. This might be what we're looking at moving forward. I've got to see it. After I see it in week 1, it starts to make a little bit more sense. We can move forward. Evan Ingram at number 11. This is a guy that could have a ton of upside in week 11, and he is a guy that could end up getting a little bit of a boost as well for me by the time we get there. I am absolutely all right playing Evan Ingram this week because he's going to be playing against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, one of the reasons why I'm a little bit lower on him than the other guys in front of him is keep in mind how athletic those Steelers linebackers are, okay? Watt and Bush both have the capability of hanging around Evan Ingram just enough to throw them off balance and give Daniel Jones a little bit of a hard time finding him right away. So for me personally, I'm watching that matchup. What do we see between those linebackers and Evan Ingram? If this was another matchup facing a team that's athletic linebackers, might not be able to keep up with Evan Ingram, I might have him a little bit higher because the Giants are probably going to have to throw the ball quite a bit. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think that he's going to be disrupted there in the middle of the field. He might get hit deep a couple of times because Evan Ingram's speed will kind of win out on those guys. You know, Devin Bush is not like a coverage guy. I mean, he's got some good speed, but he's not a coverage guy. So the thing with Devin Bush is, yeah, he can stay with him and disrupt him a little bit. Same thing with TJ Watt. Yeah, he can stay with him and disrupt him a little bit, but is that going to happen down the field? Probably not. So Evan Ingram could win down the field, but those short routes, those intermediate routes, he's going to get knocked around a little bit. All right, let's move into the top 10 tight ends for the week. And Jared Cook's going to be at number 10 for me. Another solid matchup for him. Really impressed down the stretch with Drew Brees last year. Tyler Higbee at number 9. Yeah, I got him inside the top 10 tight ends, even though he was a big name to avoid for me because, again, it's a little bit of a waiting game. And I say this over and over and over in week 1, but it truly is right now, ladies and gentlemen. We've got to see what these offenses are doing. This is a good matchup for him, I believe, okay? Because even though, yes, the Cowboys also have some athletic linebackers that can keep up with them, if they're going to have 2 tight end sets on the field more often, they're not going to have linebackers covering 2 tight ends all the time. That's not going to end up happening, okay? So if they run some more 12 personnel, Tyler Higbee has an opportunity to find himself and some better opportunities to win because he's not always probably going to have a linebacker on him. He might get like a slot cornerback on him, which he should be able to beat. We got to see what they do with Gerald Everett. Is Gerald Everett going to be on the field as much as he was to begin last year? Yes, they don't have Brandon Cooks anymore, so that could end up going to him. Also, how effective is the run game? If the run game isn't very effective against the Cowboys and they have to start throwing it a little bit more, kind of what I talked about with Austin Hooper last year, maybe Tyler Higbee starts getting set up for some of those short yardage situations where they have to throw it because the run game just isn't doing it. All right. So even though I have him as an avoid, even though I'm avoiding him this offseason in general, I'm still going to give him the benefit of the doubt here in week 1 because it should be a pretty good matchup. Mike Gesicki, my kryptonite from last year. No matter what I said, Mike Gesicki always did the opposite. I have him as a start this week. I got him at number 8. I like this matchup because, stay with me here for folks, I don't like Devontae Parker's matchup. And I heard a lot of you say to me about Devontae Parker, well, he burned Gilmore last year. He was all over Gilmore at the end of the year last year. He couldn't do anything. How many of you remember Gilmore holding Devontae Parker to no yards, on no receptions, on 7 targets in week 2 of 2019. Okay? Devontae Parker sure did get the best of Gilmore, but Gilmore got the best of him as well. So for me, I'm going to go with the guy that is an all-pro at the position, is one of the top-rated defensive players in the league. I'm going to go with Gilmore and say that he wins that matchup against Parker this week. If he does, Gesicki's the guy, okay? Because Gesicki's going to be moving out into the slot. He's going to be lined up on the line. You've got Preston Williams who's going to be moving around as well. Gesicki for me is going to be a nightmare matchup this week against the New England Patriots because they don't have the personnel to contain him in the middle of the field. Yes, they can do a good job of stopping the pass against wide receivers, but they don't have the athletic playmakers anymore to run with these tight ends. They're down at safety. They're down at linebacker. They're down on the line. They've lost a lot of people. Gesicki could absolutely end up tearing it up this week. Darren Waller at number 7. Darren balls to the Waller. We'll keep rolling with him, man. I don't care. They signed Jason Witten. They've added outside weapons, so yeah, maybe his volume goes down a little bit, but that makes him more efficient. Okay, I've heard a lot of you also bring up, well, what about Foster Moreau? Well, he's not playing. He's out. Okay, he's injured. We're not going to be seeing him anytime soon. Okay, so those touchdown passes that went to him last year could end up going to Waller this year. Jason Witten's going to see some time, but not enough to take away from Darren Waller. My bae from this offseason at tight end, Jonnu Smith, we're going to roll with him at number 6. That's a little frisky, ladies and gentlemen. That is a little bit high. I'll take that. Okay, I understand that. But if you're a part of our Patreon membership, you already know why I have him that high. I did a video this week breaking down the Denver Broncos coverage in the pass game and how that could benefit Jonnu Smith. So if you're a part of Patreon, hit up those comments down below. Let me know how that video was and let the people know how that video was, okay? Because I thought it was hashtag hellafire, all right? But even on top of that, Von Miller out now. It's going to give Ryan Tannehill a little bit more time this week. Jonnu Smith is in a position to smash. Hunter Henry at number 5. Expect him to find the end zone this week. Really think Tyrod Taylor is going to look his way quite a bit. No Mike Williams to compete with, so Hunter Henry is definitely going to be that red zone target. Zach Ertz at number 4. Again, what's going to be happening with Jalen Reagor? Okay, that's a question mark for me. Zach Ertz should end up seeing more than enough volume this week either way. We're going to hold him right here at number 4. Mark Andrews at number 3. Love me some Mark Andrews this week. Love me some Mark Andrews overall. They get the Browns this week, who are absolutely beat up in the secondary. Mark Andrews and Marquise Brown, both guys I really like this week now, seeing how many people are going to be out for the Browns. Travis Kelce at number 2. He already played. That's why I've got him in green there. Again, another great performance by Travis Kelce. And at number 1, the man, the myth, the legend, the dude with the hair, George Kittle himself. That's right, George Kittle coming in at number 1 for me. The reason I went with him over Kelce is just because there was so much more opportunity for volume. That's really the only reason. More opportunity for volume. So I rolled with him this week at the number 1 position for tight ends. There you have it, Headliner Nation. Hopefully you all are doing well right now, getting ready for an entire slate of football on Sunday. Don't forget, tomorrow night, or maybe tonight, whenever you're catching this video, Saturday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on YouTube, Jake and your boy live, okay? Make sure that you show up for that show. Let's make it the biggest show of 2020 so far. Do me a favor, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, become a part of Headliner Nation today. And as always, leave a comment down below and we will get to as many as possible. Headliner Nation, stay safe, stay healthy. I'll catch you on the next episode of the Fantasy Headliners.